Welcome, everyone, to our podcast. It's our inaugural, very first podcast, and it's called From Badges to Briefcases. I'm your host, Brandon Gans. We're here at Gans Law. Here with me, I've got attorney Ian Wise.
Good morning.
We're both former law enforcement officers, and now we carry briefcases. So
we do.
We said, why shouldn't we have a podcast about it?
Yeah.
So that's what we're here to do. And today we've picked a topic that's been in the news a lot lately. It has been getting a lot of coverage. We've all seen the videos. People getting arrested for speeding.
Florida's new super speeder law is leading to some arrests.
A criminal offense. Instead of a citation, drivers are arrested on the spot if caught going 50 miles an hour or more over the speed limit.
He's being stopped. The speed limit's 70 miles an hour. You're doing 104 coming up behind me. As of 3 minutes ago, it is now an arrestable offense to do.
Now, as long as I've been practicing, that's never been a crime, right?
Yeah, and it's a big deal, especially here in Orange County, because their standard offer now includes 10 days of jail for speeding.
Absolutely, believe it or not. So if you get picked up for speeding at a certain speed in Orlando, you're looking at probably 10-day jail offer.
Yeah.
And so we want to really drill down on the subject so you can be informed. And again, it's been a topic of much discussion lately. So let's get into it.
Let's go.
All right, cool. So first of all, what is Florida's super speeder law, as they're calling it?
Well, there's two parts to it. The one is you're either going more than 50 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. And the other one is if you're going over 100. But if you're going over 100, you also have to be affecting another vehicle.
Absolutely. And I actually printed off the statutes before we got started so you guys can be informed as well. And just like Ian said, if you're doing 50 miles or more over the posted speed limit, you don't even need to affect any other traffic. The speed alone is enough to actually, you can be arrested for it. It's a crime.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the second part, if you're doing 100 miles or more over the speed limit, even if the speed limit's 70, I know I was on the interstate, it could be up to 70, then, you do have to affect the safety of persons or property or interfere with any other vehicle, like you just said. So definitely we're seeing a lot of people get arrested for that.
Yeah, they're going ham. They are definitely pushing this issue. They're making it a point to arrest and prosecute these.
Absolutely. Yeah, the local agencies are really pushing it. So you'll see them on I-4 in the express lane. Just because you're in the express lane doesn't mean you can do 50 over. So don't be fooled by the name.
Correct.
All right. So we talked a little bit about, who would qualify to be arrested under that law. And people are getting arrested. So is it something that applies just in Orlando, or is that going to be statewide?
Well, the law is applicable statewide, and the Orange County prosecutors have their policy of a 10-day minimum offer. Now, each county could have a different policy and different standards for where they put their pleas. In Orange County, 10-day minimum, because of it's a second-degree misdemeanor, the most you could ever do is 30 days. The likelihood is pretty slim that you would do 30 days, but it's possible.
Right. And so it's important for people to know that the 10 days jail is actually not in the statute. It's not a minimum mandatory. It's just the policy as of the filming of today of the Orange County State Attorney's Office, which is where we handle most of our cases, right?
Yeah, they're definitely really pushing this issue. A lot of times when you see a new law come out, there's kind of a grace period where the police or prosecutors don't push it as hard or they don't punish it as harshly, but they are really going the other way on this one and really pushing it.
I agree. I was actually really surprised because, like you said, typically when you have a new law in the books, because as long as I've been practicing, speeding, regardless of the speed, 50 over or not, has always been a non-criminal ticket. Now, this could be significant penalties, but when you're now criminalizing activity that was previously non-criminal, you think you'd want to ease into it with punishment. But like you said, they went the complete opposite direction, full swing for jail. And we've seen people getting jail offers that on a speeding ticket that have no prior history, not even prior speeding tickets.
Yeah, like I said, it's the opposite of what you would expect for a new law.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the state doesn't have to give the grace period. The unfortunate thing is when there's a law on the books, ignorance of that law is not a defense. Right. So that you don't know that you could be arrested doesn't mean that you won't be arrested or charged.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there usually was a grace period, like when Florida enacted the move over law many years ago. That was not previously illegal. Then they made it illegal. Wasn't criminal, but it was still, a traffic violation. And I remember myself pulling people over. I always gave warnings because I believe them when they say, I didn't know that was a law. Okay, I'll give you a warning. Doesn't go on your record. Just drive safer next time. But here, there's really not many warnings. You're going to jail.
Absolutely. And especially with the highway patrol, they tend to be more ticket focused. Like you mentioned, you gave a lot of warnings. I did the same thing too. If something was that serious and the person didn't have a record or it was a new law, I would write them down to a slower speed. I would maybe write them for a ticket instead of the criminal violation. Yeah, but you're not seeing that now.
You're not seeing it, and they're enforcing or recommending a jail time was really not even required by the law. And it's blanket. It's not even based on someone's history for the most part. And so that's just been really surprising to me. And it's interesting too, because the new law, the way that it's written with the penalties that you talked about, it's neither a first-degree misdemeanor nor a second-degree misdemeanor. It's kind of like a hybrid in between. Because a first-degree misdemeanor, you're looking at up to a year in jail. Second-degree misdemeanor, up to 60 days in jail. This is sort of like it doesn't really fall into that category. Same with the fines as well. But, I imagine these carry points as well. So your insurance rates might go through the roof.
I would imagine so. I actually haven't looked at that. I don't know how many points this would carry.
Yeah.
But as a criminal violation, it's definitely going to bring your insurance up regardless.
Yeah, typically. Yeah, I know typically with speeding, if it's, up to 14 miles over the posted speed limit, you're looking at 3 points. If it's, 15 miles or over the posted speed limit, you're looking at 4 points. But there's certain violations that do carry more points as well. Yeah. But I think most people are, at that point, we're worried about how do I get out of jail?
Absolutely. Yeah. Or going to jail in the first place. That's a very traumatic experience. Yeah. I know we have some clients who are in their 60s who live their entire life, squeaky clean, work to better the public, and they make a mistake one day and they wind up in jail, and it changes their entire outlook on life. It's even visiting now as an attorney or when I was an officer going to jail with people that I had arrested. It's not a pleasant place to be. And that's putting it nicely.
Oh, absolutely. If you've never been, you don't want to go.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now we're there all the time because we're seeing clients, but we don't want to see them on a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I'm not trying to laugh about it, but it is just such overreach, I think, on a speeding. And I understand, the state interest in it and all, but it just seems like a huge leap to me.
Yeah. Well, especially because we had reckless driving on the books before.
Sure.
If someone is going that fast, that could be part of the reckless, which would then support the arrest. But like we mentioned, now you don't have to show that unless it's 100 plus. You just have to show it affected another vehicle.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for the state to prove.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people with speeding tickets, normally you have 30 days to make an election. This one, you're just getting a court date. Like, there's no election.
Yeah.
You're getting an arraignment with a criminal judge as what you're going to get. So,
yeah.
Now, what about, out-of-state drivers? It'd be interesting to know people coming to Florida not knowing about this law.
Yeah.
And maybe they're in a rental car. They're not sure where they're going. And even if they're doing 170, they could get arrested.
Yeah. And that causes bigger problems because now you're out of state. And now you have two different states looking at your driving record. What happens in Florida might impact your driving, ability to drive in your other state where you live.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And then we have other bond issues. If you're not from the area, a judge might be less likely to offer you bond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Could be out-of-state issues for sure. All right. So it's interesting now, being on this side, because we used to be in law enforcement. We used to stop people, write them tickets. Now, I never wrote any speeding tickets, not because I'm so nice, but because I wasn't certified to run radar or laser. A lot of people don't realize you have to take a 40-hour class in Florida to operate a speed measurement device. And then you have to keep all your logs, and there's a whole lot that goes into it. But you were, right? You were certified?
Yeah, I was. I was using both radar and the LiDAR, both devices, and I did write a lot of tickets. I would never have imagined or even thought of taking anyone to jail for speeding, but I did write people for going over 100 miles an hour. It is true. Excessive speed is very dangerous. I can understand why the state wants to really hammer the idea home, but adding jail time simply for speeding does absolutely seem excessive. And for my time as an officer, I can't imagine ever putting someone in handcuffs just for speed.
Sure. Yeah, speed alone. I totally get that. And just real quick, for people that don't know, is there a difference between radar and laser as far as how it calculates the vehicle or how you like lock onto a vehicle?
Well, yes. I mean, they both fundamentally work similarly enough without getting into the technical finer details of it. The main difference as far as when you're using it on the street is radar essentially sends out waves. Like imagine like dropping like a rock into a pond, and you see the ripples go out, and those will go out and bounce off of essentially everything in the area and come back. And
So you're like shooting on into a cone almost, right?
yes, so you have to use your brain to confirm what you're seeing
Right.
with what the display is. Whereas with the LiDAR, it's target specific.
Right.
You point it, there's like a little red circle square, depending on the model,
Right.
in the middle of the screen, and you see exactly what it's going, and the light comes out and back, and it measures the speed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, thank you for explaining that. Just some people don't understand. I'm sure you could expand a lot more, but we only have an hour. So it's interesting, since you did write speeding tickets, do you see things differently now that you're kind of on the defense side?
I do, absolutely. And I was always trying to do the right thing, and I believe most officers are trying to do that too. Most officers really are out there generally trying to keep people safe. They really are trying to make the community better, for the most part, at least. The thing is, as an officer, you only deal with a person, a driver, a defendant, whomever, for a very short period of time. You don't know who they are beforehand. You don't know their story, and you hear a lot of lies, and you kind of become desensitized when a person really has something going on in their life. You kind of think it's just a load of crap. Whatever, they're just trying to get out of the ticket. They're just trying to get out of being arrested. And you have to make quick decisions with very limited information. And those decisions have very long lasting impacts on the lives of people. And if an officer has reason to arrest them, they can make a lawful arrest. Might not be the right decision to have made, but they could have. But that now, even if the person has a case dismissed, if they're not eligible for sealing or expunging, that's going to be on their record for forever.
Yeah.
And it will never go away.
Absolutely. And not only just like the human aspect, but from a technician standpoint, being that you were certified in speed measurement, it gives you probably a leg up, I'd imagine, too, in defending tickets as well.
Yeah, I remember some of the smaller details that a lot of officers don't pay attention to, prosecutors aren't aware of. One of them, for example, is if you're using a radar device in your vehicle. Here in Florida, it's very, very hot. Well, you have your AC on, and that air is moving through the car, and that air is going to interfere with the radar device. And that could be a defense. It could be a way to attack, the accuracy of the device, because it could be reading something else.
So you have some insider knowledge some other attorneys might not have.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So this is a question I think a lot of people probably wonder. The new statute, the super speeder statute is called here the dangerous excessive speeding statute, whatever you want to call it. Do you think it's more for public safety or revenue for the state? Do you have any opinions on that?
A portion of all traffic violations do go to the agency that wrote the ticket. But to say that agencies write tickets to fund themselves, I think it's pretty far-fetched.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have to be writing citations nonstop every day, and everyone would have to be paying them, and that would still be a very small portion of their budget. Like I said, I really do think most officers genuinely are trying to do what they think is right, at least. It might not always be the most effective way to do it, but at least I think it's good intentioned.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, just in my opinion, I think there is the real public safety concern when they drafted the statute for the dangerous excessive speeding. I get it. There's a lot of accidents out there needlessly that we really don't need to happen. I think our job as defense attorneys is just make sure people are treated fairly and aren't punished excessively. But I think the law as a whole, like I can see the value in it as to at least why it was drafted. Now, traffic laws historically, in my experience, the Florida legislature has not done an excellent job at explaining the traffic laws, particularly. So I'm not saying it's a well-drafted law or well-executed, but I think I can kind of see the logic behind it in a way.
I can too. And during my time as a traffic homicide investigator, something that we looked at for traffic enforcement to really keep the community safe, you have what are called the 4 E's. The one that you cannot control, that's the environment.
Okay.
If it's raining, we don't get snow here, but in some places you do.
Yeah.
You can't really control that. You can control the engineering, the way that roads are designed. You can control education. You can teach people what's safe and why it's safe. And the last one is the E for the enforcement. And that's the one that people think about. When most people think of a police officer, they think of a traffic ticket. Most people who have contacted a police officer, it's because of a traffic ticket.
Sure.
But that is the least effective way to improve safety. Yeah. So it seems counterintuitive. It makes people feel good. We have this good law that's going to keep us safe. But the reality is enforcement of traffic laws is the least effective way to improve safety.
Interesting. Okay. I like that input. Speaking of input, let's see if we can get some comments from social media. We've had a lot of people interacting with us, which is awesome. I never would have thought, but we've had quite a few comments and opinions posted. So just want to read a few of those and kind of get your take on it. So we've got one here from It's Just Zach from our video Legal Miss that we did. And he said, I wish people stopped using entrapment when they don't understand what it means. If you remember this video we did,
I do.
it was about entrapment. So if you just want to briefly explain entrapment and kind of comment on that.
Yeah, entrapment is a very misunderstood concept. A lot of people think of entrapment as, oh, you were hiding and you caught me. Yeah, that's not entrapment.
Right.
In order to be successful in using entrapment as a defense, you have to show that the state coerced you into doing something you normally would not have done. I guess a really obvious example in the context of speeding would be if a police car pulled up next to you, rolled their window down, and said, hey, I want to challenge you to a race. Let's see who can hit 100 miles an hour first.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, I can't do that. It's against the law. And the officer is like, you're good. We're going to race. And then
It sounds like Super Troopers.
yeah, it sounds like a Super Troopers, right? I don't think that is ever going to really happen.
Right.
Might somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's the idea.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I always explain it to people is the police almost have to entice you to do something you would otherwise not have done.
Yeah.
So and that kind of plays into your hypothetical.
Yep.
So that's, great. So hopefully It's Just Zach is satisfied with that.
Hopefully, yeah. But that is a very misunderstood concept.
Yeah, and he seemed to know that as well. So very good. The next comment that we have is from Kermit D. Forg, which I guess is a play on Kermit the Frog.
Okay.
He says, I've always been curious, do signs that say not responsible for damage or stolen property relieve a business of liability? Or is the sign reminding the customer that the business is not liable? So that sounds like a civil question to me. We're a criminal defense firm, but we both went to law school. I think we could probably answer the question.
Oh, man. I try to forget this once I took the bar, but
Yeah.
I still remember a little bit.
Yeah.
So in Florida, businesses do have a responsibility to keep their patrons safe. That's why you see a lot of places with security guards. Now, that doesn't mean they need to protect them from everything that could possibly happen, but they need to take reasonable steps to keep the area safe.
Sure.
And for instance, if you're in an area that's known for high crime, then taking the extra step of having a security guard would help. But if something happens that they can't control or that wasn't expected, those signs are there. So the signs aren't worthless, but for a better explanation, I think you should definitely talk to a civil attorney who handles those cases. But I think that's a good general.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I don't know that there's any sign that could excuse a intentional gross negligence. So it can only go so far. Obviously, they're covering themselves the best that they can or think that they can.
Yeah.
But I agree with you on that point. But consult a civil attorney if that's it. So very good. And I know some people want to know with the super speeder statute, to get back to that, since we got a little off topic. People want to know, should I just pay this ticket and move on?
No.
Well, you can't.
True.
So yeah, it's not even an option, really.
Mm-hmm.
But you can hire an attorney, and whether it's us or someone else, they can guide you through the process. So, if it's someone that hires us, how could we help them fight a super speeder ticket?
Well, even a normal speeding ticket, you don't just want to pay the ticket. And the reason is Florida has, and it's different from a lot of other states, where you can plead no contest to a traffic ticket, a criminal charge. Some you're not allowed to, but most you can. And with the right representation, and if you know how to get this, you can have the adjudication withheld. That's a fancy way for the state to say you're taking responsibility, but you haven't been convicted. And if you haven't been convicted and it is a felony, well, you can still have guns. You can still vote. Your rights aren't taken away. And if it's a traffic ticket, well, then you don't have points.
Absolutely. And I wish we could keep talking about it, but I think we're out of time.
Yep.
Pretty good for the first podcast.
Yeah, not bad.
I think we should do more.
Let's do it.
So again, this has been Brandon Gans and Ian Wise, attorneys at Gans Law. If you think that we should do more podcasts, comment in. Let us know what you want to hear, other topics that are interesting, things in the news, things that you just came up with, and we'll talk about it, right?
Yeah,
That's what we do. So
what we do.
signing off. See you next time.
See you next time.